I just wanted to show you the steps that I used when I originally laid out this template. Sadly, it's already marked out for all the holes, but I think I can show you how that was done. First thing I did is I started in the middle with a hole for the center hole and marked center lines across that and drilled this hole. And then took my center finding tool, put it on a flywheel adapter piece, and found the vertical line that brings up from the flywheel mount. And then I would put this on it. I put clearance holes for the existing studs in there, and this bolt threads all the way down to the shoulder. You want to get down to the shoulder where it's not laying on the thread. And then I lined up this center line so that it's straight up, straight down. And to start, I went on the back side. There's two through holes that I took a transfer punch and went from the back side and marked those holes. Then, to mark the threaded holes, took a bolt and I put a point on it, and then cut the bolt head off, and then this I can thread into these locations where the mounting is for the engine. Put it in so it's points about flush with that. Put part back on, tie it up, tighten it all the way up, get it square or straight with that, and then just take a hammer and lightly tap it. And that's going to put a dimple right here where that is. And you do that to all the rest of the bolts. Well, these we already marked because they're through holes. And this part of it's done then. For the replacement engine, I did basically the same thing as I did for the old engine. As I found the vertical center, scribed the line where it is, and then made an adapter on a lathe, put it in the original hole that was there, and then just put this onto the engine. So, line up the vertical center with the center line that I marked previously, and for the locked it in the best I could, and used a transfer punch and marked transferred the marks to the template. And then I had the other smaller one of these, the 7/16, and basically did the same. Threaded this in so far, put this back on, lined up vertical center, just tapped it with a hammer to make a dimple. Did that for all of the holes all around the pattern. And then when I was done, I verified that everything appeared to be squared up, drilled my holes and marked them what size the diameters I wanted. I now have my template made. If you look at here, you see that the 7/16" holes are to mount to the engine block, and then there's half-inch pins that help align this plate to the engine. And then these inner holes are marked with clutch half-inch actually mount to the twin disc clutch housing. These two holes will be a close tolerance because that'll act as a pin to help align the housing, and the other holes that are, three holes that are half-inch will be oversized a little bit to allow the bolts to have some tolerance. And then this is going to be a threaded stud because there's no room on the engine block for a head to be of a bolt to be on the back side of here because it's going to hit a rib on the engine block. So I'm just going to put a threaded stud in there, weld it from the back, and grind it kind of smooth. So basically what I use is these transfer punches. They're fairly inexpensive. You get a whole set of these in fractional, or you get letter size or even number sizes. I only have the fractional size. This is a half-inch transfer punch. So it has a point on the end, so you just align it in the hole and just lightly tap these half-inch holes. And then after this is done, I'll come back with a center punch and drive them in fairly deep. Right now I just want to make a little mark. That's the half-inch. This is 7/16 inch. And you come back for the alignment pin for the engine. That is all marked out. Okay, now I have all the holes are all marked, and I basically put the physical diameter that I want to drill the holes. That way I keep alignment, keep myself straight. If you look here, I don't know if you can see it with the video, but I have the two half-inch alignment holes for the clutch housing and the two half-inch alignment holes for the engine block itself. And then the other holes are drilled 30 seconds over the size of the actual bolt diameter. So it gives a little bit of tolerance on the holes, and that makes it easier to bolt together. But you have your alignment holes to keep it from shifting as torque is applied to it. So we're good. To make it a little easier to drill, I decided to rough cut the size of the adapter plates to make it easier to drill and work with in a milling machine, so it would be a little bit smaller, closer to the size I wanted. Okay, I have the plate rough cut to the shape that it's going to be, and now it's ready to start drilling the holes. To do that, I've made a piece of rod with a point around, like a center point, chucked it in the drill, and I'm going to bring this down and align it to the first hole that I'm going to drill. Make sure these are loose. Get it lined up, and then I'll lock my quill and then tighten the clamps up to hold it in place to be ready to drill. The location of this is in the opening on the key slot for the key slot for the table, so I can drill through all this without hitting the table. And once I start drilling, I'll first drill my pilot hole, and then I'll finish this hole to the 17/32 diameter before I move to the next hole and do the same exact process. Okay, drilling to the final diameter of 17/32. That finishes the first hole. I'm getting ready to cut the final hole to its finished diameter. And I also wanted to say earlier, and I forgot, is that when you're using a pattern like I did, and you're first marking the pattern using in this situation, the clutch housing and the engine, I transfer the holes from there, and then from the pattern I had to transfer it to the part. And if you notice, I had the part and the pattern securely tied together. That way you don't have any walking of the holes, or minimize the walking of the holes to a new location, because you're adding another variable, because you can stack the tolerances by keep transferring the holes. So be knowledgeable that can happen, that these holes will be off slightly from the pattern, but just take your time as you mark them. And then when you drill them, as I did, I'd drill the pilot hole, I'd step it up to the next size, and then go to the final size without taking it on the fixture. That way the part stays in location, and the center axis of each drill is going to hit at the same spot. So you don't have that wiggling and trying to get at the center as you drill it out. So this is the way that I've done it for many years, and I have great luck with it. So here we go. Okay, that's all the holes to be drilled. I'll be going to the next segment where I'm going to have to cut this area out so I can get into the back of this to hold the bolts when I put the clutch housing in. I have my clutch housing laying flat on top of the adapter plate, and just bolts going through just to align it. So what I'm going to do now is just take and describe the existing mark here all around. Just roughly mark it. Because my plan is to cut this a little smaller all around than that, and maybe not even cut this part up, maybe just radius this in. And the bottom of the Ford engine ends somewhere in here. So this will be left. And there's a guard that goes here that keeps rodents and everything out. So I want this to be closed off so no rodents can get up in my clutch assembly. And then also I'm going to mark this now, but I'll need to determine the cutout for the start of this one will be coming from the opposite side here, because this is the cavity for the starter. And there's also a plug that on the Ford engine that sticks up a little high, so I need to make sure that I have clearance so that this plate lays flat on the backside of the Ford engine. Doing a fit test on the adapter plate to see how it fits onto the replacement engine, and all the bolt pattern all seems to match up. I can't see on the video, but these bolts, and this is the half-inch pin, and this is the half-inch pin that'll key this in, and then the other bolts are all just regular bolts that bolt the engine down to the transmission. Did notice that I'm a little tight on this plug. This plug sticks out a little beyond flush on this surface here, so I need to grind this just a little more inside here. But overall it looks acceptable, and I'm ready to go on to the next step. Here's the finished product of the adapter mounted onto the master clutch housing. So all the holes are in, and it's ready to bolt everything together.